Bitcoin is breaking past that $108,000 level. It's sitting right in that zone. Altcoins primed for their next move. We even have some altcoins getting listed on the stock market. We've got a great guest that's going to be diving in here in just a few minutes. But right now, I just wrapped up a space on the Mario Nawfal channel. I want each and every one of you head over to the Kellam page or at Academy BitLab. Get this retweeted out, get this shared, get this posted. We're going to be diving right on into this in just absolutely one moment. I'm getting this shared as we speak. Let's go. Today's Monday. Do you think the price is going to pump more than 5% by the end of this week? By Sunday, it could have dropped by then, but do you think it will get a pump of 5% or more by the end of this week? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments down below. With that being said, let's dive in. We got some critical signals that we have to look at right now. So let's go. What is up? Prices, that's what's up. Ethereum still sitting, as you can see, right over my shoulder, sitting in that same zone, but Bitcoin making some strides to the upside. Looking right here on the charts, we're seeing the Bitcoin price had a nice little move, that deviation down that really tried to trap people, and now moving back up away from this zone, pushing up above $108,000 and now sitting right there still, $108,055. Will this go higher? Will this go lower? We got some critical signals we have to watch, but it's feeling like the bulls are bubbling underneath and the buy pressure is just nonstop at the moment for what is happening in this market. So what gives? We've got a great guest popping on here in a bit. Really popular account and smart guy. I've been on a lot of spaces with him over on the Mario side. He's going to be coming on here in a few minutes, but I want to run through some things before we get to him, because when we're looking at this, altcoins still seeing a little bit of pressure, even though some of those alts that you're holding are moving. Not everything, it's not alt season yet until it's kind of, you throw the dart at the board and everything is just absolutely running. As it stands right now, the Bitcoin dominance is showing that we have the price action on Bitcoin still outpacing a lot of what we're seeing in the altcoin market. And it's kind of at a critical juncture. It's broken very cleanly through this golden pocket. We wanted this. We really wanted this to be one of these rounding tops here and have this breakdown. In fact, we would like to see this breakdown here and continue on down like we see here. That would actually be an alt season, but we're not fully seeing that yet. It's still Bitcoin's not only day in the sun, it's Bitcoin's time with mass capital focus. So we need to pay attention to this. In fact, what we're looking at right now shows a sort of mixed bag. If this is on the weekly, I don't know what AB is. This keeps going in and out of this top zone, but Raven Coin, which I haven't even heard of or discussed in the last 2 years. I'm going to have to look into why this might be pumping. But Kita also getting some nice move. This is on the weekly. If we look on the hourly, look at that. Kita also, KTA, nice move to the upside, but a lot of green on this. Are there coins that you're holding that are not on this top 100? Well, then what's going on? Because you might be holding something that is not in a narrative that is really seeing focus, but we're seeing the green. When we come over here and we look, this is when I was looking at this Newton. Let me redo that right there. Coin market cap. Bring it up. Come on, internet. I believe in you. I believe in you. Okay, fuck coin market cap. Turn that off because that's not showing me anything. This is what we're seeing. The question is Bitcoin's move to the upside going to be sustained, or is it an unhealthy move? When we look at this, Bitcoin looks excellent. Why is this? Because we're seeing the aggregated open interest dropping while price is actually pushing up. We had a lot of, basically, look at this, negative funding rate. That's what we're seeing on the bottom rung here. This is when you get negative funding rate, it means everybody or the majority of people are going short on the market. So it becomes more expensive to go short. When everybody's going long on derivatives, then you get this positive funding rate, meaning it costs money to hold your derivative positions open if they're in a long. It helps keep the balanced market. But what we tend to see in these markets is when you have a dominant bullish narrative like we're seeing here, and you get this little bit of flippening with dum-dums out there going, I'm going to short this. what happens here is a slingshot mechanism, boom, that just pops this up. And then again, boom, right here, we got the negative funding rate, then slingshot, boom, to the upside. Yet again, are we seeing the same thing play out? I think we might be, but the point is, when you're an analyst on these markets, when you're trading, when you're investing, when you're trying to actively navigate, you have to realize you're navigating against algorithms, against AI, against hedge fund managers, against the smartest money managers in the world, retail. You're literally like somebody that just learned how to play basketball and you're better than your 3-year-old brother. So now you think you can go play in the NBA. You have to realize you're not only navigating your emotions, you're navigating the shape of emotions that the biggest and smartest and most technologically advanced money players in the world are out there just trying to get you to give in or give up. And so what I'm seeing right here actually is is a bit healthier than I would have expected that we would be at $107, $108, $110,000. The market is feeling like I've always wanted it to at $100,000. Not that we're at a top. We're actually setting up with a nice base in this $100,000 region with only new capital coming in over this next 3, 6, 12 months and beyond. We're seeing new capital channels. We're seeing the appetite for Bitcoin and the crypto market only go exponential here. And the fact that we're starting to see this bit of a breakout feels good, but we can't give it all away on this move because this very easily could still wash out quite a number of people. And we can see this in the liquidation heat map, which I've been talking about for some time. We see this very bright zone. If you don't understand how to read this, know this. When you see a lot of bright colors, think of it like a magnet. The coin, which is reflective of people in the market, we're all moths. The moths go to the flame. We see the flame here, this bright light. Price comes up, boom, scoops this up. You get a bit of a short squeeze here, boom, it pops a bit higher. We don't have a huge amount of liquidity below us, which I'm actually feeling this is representative of what we were seeing. Where was it at? Right on this chart right here. We're not seeing this huge expansion. We're not seeing this huge expansion of what's going on in the market on the unhealthy side with derivatives and all these other sorts of things at play. So the fact that we have this liquidation heat map clearing out this zone and still showing some strength with not a huge amount of liquidity pulling up below us leads me to feel very bullish. And beyond that, we're seeing, I'm going to go through a couple of these really quick. I see our guest waiting in the wings. I want to get right to them, but these are just a couple things that happened over the last several days. Dubai hit 399, basically $400 million in tokenized real estate sales in May. That's in May. That's not all year. In May, $400 million in tokenized real estate sales, basically just under 20% of all their deals. This is only just beginning. Beyond that, we also see that we've got the bill to establish that strategic Bitcoin reserve executive order that Trump put out earlier this year. Actually establishing that as law. We also see the DOJ seizing $7.7 million in crypto tied to North Korean IT workers. We're starting to shape things up here. This is only going to get worse, though. We're going to see more people going more aggressively after this. So make sure you are protecting yourself. Make sure you're not clicking on links. Make sure if you're getting an email from your exchange and they're reaching out saying, hey, you need to provide... They're not emailing you. They're not asking you. They're not calling you. Protect yourself. Do not do all this time, effort, energy, and capital into this market, only give it away on a silly moment of poor operational security. Look at the emails. When you get emails that says from, click on it, and you can see on the actual email name itself. Make sure if it's from Coinbase, it says at coinbase.com. When you're seeing the links, you can call them directly rather than them calling you or you going through some email from something you don't know. Do not be part of these scams out there and give your money away. And beyond that, we're seeing Saylor bought another $110 million worth of Bitcoin earlier today at it was something like 1,000 Bitcoin, I believe it was. Tether saw, they're talking about their valuation. Just getting you some of the highlights here. I'm really running through this since we started a little bit late. But the point here is we're seeing the signs that we want to see. So rather than me going through what I'm seeing, let me go ahead and bring on our guy. I'm so happy to have him on because I loved talking with him on the Mario Nawfal channel quite a bit. But we got Mr. Man, Mr. Richard, how you doing, my friend, from Crypto Rand and from RR2? What's going on, man? It's good to have you on the show, BitLab Academy.
Hey, Kelly. Yeah, good to be here. Fantastic, man. Just listening in, covering covering some interesting stuff there, and I was taking some notes while you were speaking. I know a bit about Ravencoin, so I'm going to just jump back. You might
Yeah.
have noticed Ravencoin popped up on some of the heat maps. Um, so I was GPU mining Ravencoin post Ethereum ICO era, so circuit. Can't remember when exactly they launched, but anyway, it was a proof of work coin, and it was launched by a group of guys, Bruce Fenton, Tron Black, and underpinned by quite a significant figure, a guy called Patrick Byrne, who's got some governmental ties. And they it was a fork of Bitcoin. They did 21 billion coins as opposed to 21 million, and it was just a purist RWA chain. And it's incredible because here we are, gone full circle and back in this RWA narrative. And here's this perfect chain that facilitates the tokenization of assets. What they try to do was get involved with T0, which is a listed company, to deal with this tokenization. And unfortunately for Ravencoin, I just think it was too much too soon, very premature, but they're still in existence. Have a lot of respect for that team. So it was very interesting hearing you talk about Ravencoin, a coin very close to my heart from many years back. And I'm just gonna add some kudos to what you were saying about be careful of things like links and stuff like that. I was reading an article on X today about QR codes at crypto conferences, and one of the the head honchos from Kraken was saying that the findings of dangerous QR codes that are presented at crypto conferences is alarming. So go there with burner wallets, if anything, if you're gonna try and get free merch and stuff like that, which most people do. We went token 2049 in Dubai recently, and we were guilty of submitting certain wallets with QR codes, and in retrospect, maybe not the smartest things to have done. But yeah, just be aware. Anyway, it's good to be here, man. Really, really good to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, absolutely. I'm happy to have you on. I'm just gonna pull up the main profile you guys have, Crypto Rand, that you're a part of here. If anybody's interested, they share great content all day long, every day. And Richard's got a great deal of insight into the market. I always loved talking with him. But to your point, and you can find them again, guys, at crypto_rand. And you can find Richard at what was it? Richard Seller, which is Seiler at Richard Saylor
That's
right
right.
there. But I wanted to highlight too, just on the note of security, just because you re-highlighted that. I shared this. I went and bought some rune stones the other day, and I was super happy to see this. When I went to do it when I went to send money off exchange to my Xverse wallet, it came up with this. Basically, just say, hey, crypto scams, make sure you're not sending it to anybody. There's a lot going on. And then the next one, there was a secondary check here. Are you currently in contact with someone claiming to be from Coinbase? So this is what generally gets people, because they strike you in your fear. Hey, somebody's trying to sell your altcoins and send them over here. And oh, really? Yeah, well, let me prevent that. And really what you do in the process of doing that is just give away all your keys and access, and you lose everything. So bravo to Coinbase and Coinbase support and Brian Armstrong for implementing that. But I would love to ask you, general state of the market. Of course, we see the Bitcoin dominance is just persisting. The most persistent thing in this market is this dominance. From two, almost going on close to 3 years now, 2.5 years of just persistence to the upside. Is this time different? Are we going to have this breakdown that everybody's waiting on, lose, hopefully the 62, 61, 60% level and really get a run on alts? Or do you think that this is going to be a bit more siloed this time because of all the capital interest focused on Bitcoin, while we'll still have some altcoins perform well? How do you see this going out, the landscape of the rest of this year?
Yeah, I think you've covered a couple of very valid observations there. I thought about this, probably an unhealthy amount of time spent thinking about this. Is it possible that the history constantly repeats itself? And I do think that it's vastly different this time around. And that doesn't mean to say, for the altcoin degens out there, I'm one of them. I mean, I'm way overweight altcoins, full disclosure. Um, we've been over the years, we've been advocating for recognition from TradFi and, looking for sound regulation so that protocols can exist in, top jurisdictions. And that doesn't come, it comes at a price. It doesn't come without a consequence. It comes at a price. And I think, unfortunately, with the advent of TradFi coming in, the obvious suspects have been primarily Bitcoin and Ethereum. But then, funny enough, it's been things like Ripple. Litecoin is still, if you go watch Bloomberg, go and look at the tickers that Bloomberg display. Litecoin happens to be one of the coins that Bloomberg have on rotation. They're not interested in putting in a Bitensa or Sui or Aptos or whatever might be potentially the next major altcoin that could have a Polygon type run this cycle. And that's indicative of where the mindset is. And, we keep crying, where's retail? Where's retail? I think retail's here. I just don't think it's what we're expecting. We're looking at total market cap. We're looking at, the breakdown of other three. And how do we get to that 5 trillion? How do we break above those key levels? And we are going to need a significant injection of additional capital. Right now, it's coming from TradFi. I do think, to your point, that we will see before the end of this year what might be considered an altcoin season. I certainly don't think it's going to be reminiscent of anything that we've experienced circa 2017, 2019, 2020. I just can't see that happening. Unfortunately, I think the likes of Pump Fund have completely negated the possibility of that, because back in the day, you could go and look at the top 200, 300 coins, and there would be some level of recognition of those coins. I just don't even look anywhere below 100 these days, and because you just can't trust anything, and that maybe that's a bit of an OG stigma, but I do think that the conditions have changed. That doesn't mean to say that there isn't really good opportunities that present themselves. But we use this old saying that a rising tide floats all ships. Unfortunately, that dartboard mentality of throw a dart at the dartboard and hope that your portfolio of dartboard chosen stocks or cryptos is all going to do well in the event that the whole market rises. I don't think it's going to be synonymous with that. Unfortunately, you and I both know, we've been doing this for a while, you're having to work a lot harder for your returns. Even if you look at the launches in the last 8 months, guys are stoked if they pull a 10x. I mean, I wouldn't have got out of bed for a 10x 3-4 years ago. I don't mean to be arrogant about that, but you were fighting hard and chasing after outlandish returns. Something like Kita, for example, in the last couple of weeks has just kind of snuck up behind everybody, but you had to have been probably inside the initial cabal that were pushing that sub 5 million and then it comes on the radar when it's north of 1 billion. And kudos to those that might have seen that particular call, with Kita. But this is what I'm talking about, is these things are coming out of left field, and it's just not that simple anymore. You really have to be deeply invested, fully immersed in the charts, understanding the information that pervades X and places like that, even analysis that's coming out from some of these very, very cool AI tools. You can't just sit back, you cross your arms and go like, cool, man, I'm going to exit in 18 months and I'm going to be rich. I just don't think that exists any longer.
Well, I mean, you brought up a lot of good points, namely what you even mentioned about Litecoin. Litecoin, for whatever reason, I think, like much of the retail market, is just, it's not the shiny new thing. You think it's not doing much. It's kind of like BNB in the Western world. You don't really think of BNB much, but it's very entrenched in the crypto ecosystem. Tron, I don't know a single person that uses Tron. Then you look at the metrics and realize a good portion of the world in crypto, especially in the eastern half of the world, is all over Tron because of the fees, but also just because it's part of their ecosystem and the way they think about stuff. So, you brought up some other good points too. BitTensor Tau, I mean, I'm stacked probably a bit overweight on BitTensor, but it's also because
Ditto.
I put my money. I put my money where my convictions are. I look at a lot of coins.
Yeah.
I'm on the channel every day. I'm doing TA for all kind of different stuff. But where my money is, I mean, I think BitTensor Tau, because of the dev ecosystem is created, and it's also a basically AI economy, but it also has some sort of similar, it's different, but similar characteristics to Bitcoin, like the tokenomics. And, it's got some major players involved. And I feel like, this being 413, I think, I, I don't want to say this is going to 10x this cycle, but I could see this being much higher. Let me put it that way. I think the $2,500 range would probably be a kind of a slap in the face. But then I go back to what you just said a second ago about this cycle is different because of one, the type of players that made a lot of money early on, the early adopters, even if they didn't know a thing about crypto. I remember throwing a dart at the board. If something was launching, the ICO phase, if it launched, you're going to make money. Now, I'm very reluctant. If something's going to launch, I'm like, give it a week, give it a month, give it 3 months, because almost everything as of late, for the most part, it launches. And then you have this massive sell off of just immediate exit liquidity. So, where we're at right now, I mean, I'm remaining very optimistic about the broader ecosystem. I think Bitcoin is going to do very well, but I think everything's still waiting on. I think there's a big cohort of liquidity in the altcoin market waiting on that guy right there to stop being the same damn price it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, so I advise a couple of people on their portfolios, and funny enough, I got a couple of them to pivot fairly recently out of Bitcoin and into ETH. If you look at if you do some real honest soul searching about where the absolute potential is for Bitcoin, I'll keep saying this: anything above $150,000, and this is my own personal conviction. This is not financial advice or any mandated thesis. I think we always own our own thesis in that, and be bold enough to speak it. But anything north of 150,000 is a gift, and you could see an immense blow off top as a result of, let's say, retail catching the last wave and thinking, gosh, we've missed it again, and then maybe giving another 100,000 on top of that. Who knows? We've seen this before, and it's the thing with crypto is that you can't bottle it, but you've got to have you've got to start somewhere. I think I really believe that ETH should outperform for the balance of this cycle. If we're looking at cycle in terms of the length, the normal length of halving, so let's just round it down or up to 500 days. Let's say there's another 50% or 40% left in a move with Bitcoin. Really, Ethereum is lagging massively. The ETH BTC ratio is dismal, and if we eventually get the turnaround on that ratio that I think everybody is watching exactly, it will be a significant move, and that's why I think look, I was at listening to Arthur, and Arthur's a smart guy. He advocates a number of different projects and protocols and that, but he nailed it. He's like, ETH is going to be the hated rally. It's the reason why it will recover. And remember, it's got a massive foundation. It's got the most dedicated developers out of any crypto ecosystem, unparalleled, not even close. And their metrics are always still trending in some form, depending on what it is that you're looking at any particular time. So, it's not to say that I don't believe in Sol. I don't believe in, the has runs, which will be the Sui Aptoses of the world that will vie for what's left over out of the ETH Solana push when it happens. But I really believe that ETH has had a hard time, and I mean, you can't discount a guy like Vitalik and his intentions. I'm pretty sure that they're going to get things right. I listened to an interesting talk in Dubai, hosted by Hasib from Dragonfly, and he was chatting to I think is it Mert, one of the core Sol devs, and one of the ETH core devs, and the debate was around this potential move back to an L1, a hard and fast L1 negating effectively what's happened with the L2s. And that was an interesting conversation, because if what they were saying is that the future of ETH could be drastically changing the way the fees work and bringing it back to a scaling environment where they can take back some of what they potentially gave away. And that's the thing, is that you can't just go, oh, well, they're done and dusted. They gave up their business to Arbitrum and Optimism, and effectively Base are going to eat their lunch. I just don't think you can write them off. And I mean, the obvious, the elephant in the room really is that where are TradFi going to go? We've spoken about this. Where are they going to go after Bitcoin? They're going to go for ETH. And that's where the money's been coming from. So we can pie in the sky about, all the speculative aspects of alt season, but really where the big money is going to come from, the hundreds of millions, if not billions, it's coming from TradFi.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I even saw somebody in here. This is, it's not right or wrong. I think it might even just be misspoken a lot of times. People say BlackRock bought this much Bitcoin today, or BlackRock sold Bitcoin and bought ETH. And I think just to bring some clarity, a lot of times it's not necessarily quote unquote BlackRock buying Bitcoin or quote unquote buying or selling ETH or one or the other. It's more so you have the people that are buying the ETFs. And when they buy, then BlackRock has to go buy Bitcoin. Or if they buy the ETH ETF, they have to go buy the ETH ETF. So if BlackRock, quote unquote, was selling Bitcoin last week, then that was people that were participants of the ETF sold, and then BlackRock went and sold those representations. And then if they're buying ETH, then they go and buy the ETH representations. But I agree with you. I think the number one chart I've been following, Colin Talks Crypto, really has been highlighting this like mad, and I think you guys have as well. Anybody that's an analyst out there, that's the this global M2 versus Bitcoin chart. It's been tracking so ridiculously beautifully here. And this does suggest up, 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 and to the right. And it's not just this chart. If we come over here and look at the global liquidity has been just pressing higher. And yes, Bitcoin has moved somewhat higher, but nothing on this move like we've seen in previous moves up, where you get this coiled spring that just launches to the upside. I agree with you, that 150K mark, I think we are still going to see a very large move to the upside. And I think the market starts getting shaky once we get, 132, 140, 150. We've got a fib target up here at 164. Can it go up here to 200, 240? Yeah, it can. But this will be like, the US is buying like mad. The UK is buying like mad. Brazil's buying like mad. And corporations are stacking like there's no tomorrow, in which case I'm curious on what kind of pullback we'll have after that, because those types of buyers aren't really playing the market cycle. They're going to be buying on the way up, and they're going to be buying on the way down. So it's kind of a bizarre place, but we're seeing this global M2 just pushing higher and higher. And then we see on the flip side of that, the altcoin market, I have the right here, this NASDAQ file adding XRP, Solana, Cardano, and XLM to the Hashdex crypto index. So I think that the eye is a little bit off the ball. Let me go back. The eye is a little bit off the ball of what altcoins can do right now, because Bitcoin's gotten so much focus. People think that this time is so different that alts aren't going to get their run. I think the alts are going to get a major run, but I'm personally of the belief that it's going to be somewhat siloed in institutional chosen narratives within the alt market. And then you're going to have the sort of random memes that just completely blow people's expectations, but it's not every meme. I think it's going to be some very key select ones, but it's an institutional run, in my opinion. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's a culmination of a thought process over the last while, where we've observed mini runs, and then gone back and reflected on what those mini runs have entailed. And that's where a lot of our research has come from. And certainly we paid attention to what happened with Pump Fun and memes. And then we had an even shorter, more aggressive agent run, which was, a slightly dressed up version of that with a little bit of functionality, but indicative that people are going to push into new narratives with the same mindset. And it's very, very tribal, quite predatory. And but back to the majors, Yeah, just that list. I was looking at that list, and you chuckle because I mean, in ADA, for those people that have been around a long time, we're still waiting for Charles to release his smart contract feature. And he gets up and huffs and puffs, and I've met him personally. He's a very, very smart guy, but he was saying this 7, 8 years ago when I met him in Africa. But as an example, the TradFi doesn't care. They're looking at what's the most proven, what's the most established, what's got the most history. From a investment point of view, a trading desk, they like history, they like data, and you show them a chart of a coin that's just listed, like that's maybe got 6 months worth of trading data. They're not going to touch it with a barge pole. I mean, they're barely going to touch things like Cardano and the like, even with 5 to 8 years worth of data, and that's why they are on those short lists. But you're right; it's going to be siloed. You're really going to have to work hard for it. I think you're going to have to, if you're on trend and you're current and you're trying to, you're in the trenches, so to speak, and you're looking for the next hot thing. Um, be Let's go back to what was been spoken about maybe a year ago. I mean, with Murad was talking about this barbell
SPX.
strategy. I think you've got to take that into consideration, is don't completely forget how you should be balancing this. That barbell notion is what's stuck in my mind, and it hasn't gone away, because really this is what this market has done over the last year or so. It's been outsized in certain aspects, but been very, very thin in others. And if you've missed those things, there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth with people that have sat back and waited, having done prudent market research. And I'll tell you something as well. I follow Banter and Run. He does a lot of due diligence, and I would say, after having watched them for a very, very long time, I've watched him change his portfolio and the structure of his portfolio 3 times in the last short while. And what he's resolved to now is revenue generating and with track record. So he's moved right away from the highly speculative bleeding edge of crypto, and brought it all the way back to, I wouldn't say full TradFi mindset, but with a quasi TradFi mindset of going, hey, hold on, what are the guys looking for here? Some intrinsic value. And I think if you can find the balance with a little bit of spice on the one end of your portfolio, but making sure that you're not going to miss out, because unfortunately, the money is going to go when this market turns. It is going to pour into the less than usual suspect, but in actual fact, are probably the usual suspects.
Well, on that note, one of the things I did last couple cycles, I had quite a number of coins, and I'm trading in and out, and I'm managing all this and trying to keep track of the news. I promised myself this cycle I was going to be a lot more focused in terms of my own portfolio. And like right now, I think I hold 5 coins, and it's very much on that narrative. It's what is for me. It's very utility based, and I agree with you wholeheartedly about. The revenue generation is what TradFi's after and institutions are after. However, some of these coins they haven't really made clear what their rev share is, and okay, how much of this utility is actually going to be adopted. Ondo is a great example of that. I think Ondo has a very good possibility of a very bright future, but it's also met with either overwhelming bullishness or absolute nothingness in terms of what its future is going to be. Of does it really get integrated? Is there going to be international barriers or national barriers here in the US with Ondo integrating a good portion of the stock market beyond just US treasuries and stuff on chain? And if so, is that going to be something that happens in the next 12 months, 3 years, 6 years? Because even the NASDAQ thing we just saw a second ago, where was it at? This right here, the NASDAQ files SEC form, blah, 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 for integrating. And they're not even be able to come to a decision until November 2nd. And this is just an integration, let alone actually moving things into a tokenized thing. But then beyond that, you have other things like not Ondo, Chainlink right here, integrating across a lot of these other majors that I really like BitTensor, like Aerodrome, like Ondo. But even if you expel those and just look at Chainlink itself, Chainlink is so integrated across the broader crypto ecosystem, but also the Web 2 ecosystem. But they're also planning on integrating with Swift and DTCC. And moreover, beyond all that, your point about revenue generation, to my understanding, I believe around November, they're actually going to finally start having their fee structure turned on for those that are integrated with Chainlink, which I, up until this point, for the most part, haven't really had that fee structure turned on. Are you looking at that at all? Is that something that, do you think Chainlink would have that sort of institutional nod because of their ties to the White House and because of this potential fee generation, basically profit structure beyond just being a coin that is an oracle and integrates across chains? Oh, you're muted. Not sure how you got muted. Muted on sound levels. There we go. Try now. There you go.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's better. So,
Yeah.
I think it's not just Chainlink. So I don't know enough about this, but I think, at an overarching theme, a lot of these OG type projects and coins have, I wouldn't say taken some focus away, understanding where the real money's coming from. They've done enough to prove enough to have, Link Army. I mean, the XRP Army, whatever. So that it's not like they need any more rah support from the crypto universe. What they need to do is prove legitimacy as a business, and I've no doubt that a project like Chainlink, it's exactly what their strategy is to go and toil in a space where they're competing with other traditional oracles, so to speak, and trying to present a better model and showing that they're very, very wealthy when it comes to revenues. And I think that's probably going to be the standard practice with a lot of these bigger projects with massive treasuries. They've done enough to prove themselves in crypto. Are they chasing token price? Yes, they know it's going to go up. I don't know, $20 to $100. What happens in this next cycle with Chainlink? But we're so hyper focused on that, But the sustainability of these guys through all aspects of a crypto cycle is how can they function as a business, and what does that actually boil down to? Is revenue generation and profitability.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Now, what do you make? Because we all talk about this. Those of us that have been in these markets for a while, even though I'm very probably overexposed to alts, I still have the assumption that the majority. I'm not even talking memes. Let's just take the top 500 coins. I would guess that in 5 years' time, maybe 30% are going to be there. In 10 years' time, maybe 5%. Right. I think there's going to be a swallowing down and an exclusion of so many of the coins that are out there. But we're still getting like the deployment of, you have so many competitors out there, from Solana to HBAR to XRP to SUI to XLM to Stacks. I mean, they're all slightly saying we do our own thing and it's this specific thing, or it's this broad-based thing, or the competing L1s that all kind of do the same thing with different arguments about TPS and technical shit that the retail and institutions alike don't really care. They want to know, is it trusted? Does it have legacy? Does it have the right people behind it? How do we need to just stay long-term focused on Bitcoin and narrow focused on altcoins in terms of like a time appropriation?
Well, I think if anything, this cycle's probably taught us all that is we maybe got a little bit carried away, and everybody drank the Kool-Aid, maybe a bit too much. And it was a rinse repeat, certainly from my perspective, a rinse repeat of expecting things to play out more or less the same. It's not to say that you aren't picking up on new trends. I suppose a good question would be to ask yourself, would you have done anything different if you could go back 24 months? And I think the answer would be resounding yes, because up to this point, and to your Bitcoin dominance chart, it's been the safest play. And that goes without saying. So, some of the stuff that I've scratched my head and asked myself, I mean, we're in this industry, and it's, could you sell your entire portfolio and go all in Bitcoin right now and go, okay, well, it's going to $1 million? it's a 10x from here. And given what we've seen, like how much could you push yourself to believe in that? If, you know, when Bitcoin was at 20,000, it was a pipe dream to think it'd get to 100, and we tipped the scales at 112,000. So it is happening. So when you hear people talking like Saylor and Hayes and CZ, look, these guys are selling. They're selling the industry like everybody would in their own industry, but there's some legitimacy to what they're referring to, and if you really dive into the why behind the purpose of Bitcoin and why it should continue to increase in value, when you look at the devaluation of currency, if we get to the kind of the purest aspect of why these things were formed initially, let's say why Bitcoin was formed. Let me correct that. Yeah, I think I probably would have changed things slightly. I think it's been a little bit disappointing, but the cycle hasn't ended yet, and I'm really of the firm belief that we will get some respite. I'm going to say it again. I think people listening, you've got to take the time. You've got to listen to shows. You've got to find trusted voices. You've really got to invest. If you're working a day job and you're coming back and looking at your crypto portfolio in the evenings, on the weekends and stuff like that, talk to people, do the research. There's always an opportunity to make life-changing money. I just don't think it's going to be as stupid as it was in previous years. I think you're going to have to work hard for it.
I definitely agree with that. I think there's a lot of money to be made, and I think we all silo ourselves away from making it by wanting to chase the faster money. And it's like, hey, even at Bitcoin speed now, it's still growing at a rate that's so far outpaces, nearly any asset in the history of ever. The only things that keep up with it now are Bitcoin proxies, meaning traditionally traded assets. Altcoins, I think there's plenty of money to be made. Unfortunately, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you kind of need to take your shots with altcoins, but make sure you're heavy in Bitcoin. So if you lose every dollar you have in altcoins, it doesn't affect your future. It just changes, that lottery system that you played in. But I'm still, I've got, again, I think I'm over allocated. I probably have about, 7 to 8% of my portfolio in alts. But I got to play the game. I'm heavy in Bitcoin, but I also see the infrastructure, getting completely rewired the world over. And it happens, this is the first real evolution in infrastructure reintegrations or evolutions since the Western world had the industrial age. We had, you look at the global finance sector and it's the same operating systems in a lot of places that they've had since the 70s. You look at healthcare and they have the same systems since they, installed computers. You look at a lot of these places and they haven't, because it's so costly to change the way their entire institution is integrated with new technologies. And I think that this is a monumental opportunity if you select the right alts. And that's why I think if you're going to, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Richard. Look for ones that are going to get the institutional sort of dubbing, the institutional saying, this is where we're going to put our money in. Although ETH feels like it fell out of favor, I think it fell out of favor of people that want things to move in this moment. But I think in reality, the data doesn't lie. It's the largest crypto ecosystem out there. The majority of the crypto ecosystem is built on ETH outside of Bitcoin. So RWAs, all of it is there. But Richard, this has been a great conversation. I'd love to give you an opportunity. You got anything coming up with what you're doing over at RR2 or Crypto Rand or anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
No, I'm grateful for the time. We're a small team, a hardworking team. We're firm belief in what it is that we're doing and the projects that we work with. We spend a lot of time advising. We invest, but we're doing a lot of marketing work with projects that we believe in. So give us a follow. We put out some really cool reports every month. We do some really nice deep dive analysis on projects that we like. And we have a lot of fun on X as well. I mean, when you're spending 80 to 90% of your day, behind X, you get to know it like a sibling. So we understand it. We're very fortunate to have it. We used to call it crypto Twitter. It's difficult to give it a name now with X, but yeah, please give us a follow, and we'll always do our best to be honest and true with things that we see and how we report on stuff. So thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate having you, and thank you for the balanced thought. Even when you and we get out there, we share charts. It doesn't mean, hey, this chart looks like it's breaking out. It's never a signal, hey, go all in on this coin because it's breaking out on a 1 hour chart. No, it's just, hey, if you're looking at these projects, these are the levels we're watching. Make sure you're zooming out and realizing how far this market has to go. Richard, I appreciate you being on here again. Everybody, you can find them. You can find him specifically right here at Richard Saylor, Seiler. And then, of course, Crypto Rand, which is crypto_RAND for more information there. Again, Richard, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure I'll see you on another Mario panel here in the near future. Thank you so much.
Cheers, guys.
Everybody, what a great discussion there. We need to have balanced discussion with ourselves and with each other and with the charts and with the data, so that when we're looking at everything in this market, we do not mess up what our strategy is because we're hoping for something. Let's hope, sure, but hope is in a smaller basket. A surety and that asymmetric bet on where you think this market's going, that's in Bitcoin. And we take these little flyers, we take these moonshot opportunities. And yes, they're all moonshot opportunities, whether it's Ondo or BitTensor or Chainlink or Cardano or HBAR or Litecoin or any coin, XRP. I don't care what coin it is that you have out there that's an altcoin, how much data that you've, but this looks like it doesn't freaking matter. Bitcoin is the asset that has institutions and governments basically racing to figure out how they can stack as much as possible. Altcoins have a very real opportunity. Blockchain in particular has a very real opportunity to really substantiate this next evolution of infrastructure across the world. But within that, which coin is it going to be out of the tens of thousands of real coins that are out there that are doing something? It could be Cardano. It could be XRP. It could be Ethereum. In fact, it will probably be a little bit of some of these top altcoins that are out there. Look at AI. Look at the infrastructure, DeFi area. Look at decentralized AI. Look, there's a lot of different players that are out there, but I would look at this as more cycle specific to rotate into Bitcoin. But I'm still so damn bullish on this market and where everything's going. And when we look at everything going on here as we wrap this out, we got Bitcoin looking here like it's pushing above $108,000 up here into the 108.3 sort of zone. Let's get this on a smaller time scale. 108,350. This one as high as 108,479 so far, but we still have a couple areas of resistance that are basically just overhead from this resistance trend line that turned into support, that turned into resistance, that's sitting up here in this zone, this 109 to 110 region. Similarly, if we look at the Bitcoin futures chart here, Bitcoin futures, this is projected out, and we are butting our head against the wall on this right now, just barely breaking through this. If this can close a candle or two above this, find support, then we might be seeing some more data suggesting that it's up rather than just our bias. But I'm so bullish on this market, everybody, and those of everybody else waiting on all the alts. The Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio does show that this pairing is broken out. It's still holding this level. If this can hold in here and make that next leg up, that's when you're going to start to see a lot more of these alts make some significant headway to the upside. But everybody, I'm bullish on you. I'm bullish on me. I'm bullish on our persistence. We're here every day. We're going to get there to that. Where is that Bitcoin 200K hat? That's right there. We're going to be wearing that one day when Bitcoin does hit $200,000. We're sitting here over $108,000 and people go, why isn't Bitcoin doing anything? What chart are you looking at? Zoom out and realize it. Price has gone from about $16,000 to $108,000 in about a year and a half. About, what is that? Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, a little bit longer than that. My math is jacked up right now. It's been about, let's see, about two and a half years. Has it been 2.5 years? Man, the time is flying. Let's see. That is, yeah. So 2023, yeah, 2.5 years. So we've been making strong headway, boom, from all the way down here, showing that FTX bottom, boom, to where we're at. Let's take off all the lines and stuff. We can see This has been a magnificent run so far, up 592% from these lows. And this is still building these bullish structures, bullish structure, bullish structure. This is on the edge of wanting to trick you into it being bearish, but we have every bit of capital in the world that matters out there trying to figure out how they can stack. This is not a bearish setup to me whatsoever, especially on the heels of everything going on right now with all of this important economic data coming out this week, with the fact that Trump is over, that we have the $9 trillion of this maturity wall coming due in 2025 this year, which is why a lot of these tariffs are getting instituted. We got the global M2. Global money is the only indicator Bitcoin cares about right now, says Quentin Francois. And this is what that looks like. This is pulling us to the upside. The data here with Trump and Xi Jinping having further talks about the trade war going on. Everything is on the horizon right now. We need to be a little bit patient, but I am so bullish. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I got to go. I got some things I got to take care of, but make sure you get in the Discord. That link is pinned in the top of the live chat there. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on X, it is, you can just come over to the YouTube and you'll see it. If you're watching on Rumble, we're live on Rumble right now. It's also pinned to the top of the live chat right in here. Got about a little over 500 people watching on Rumble. If you're watching, hit that follow button. We started the Rumble account about a month ago, and we've been getting anywhere from 15 to 50,000 views a day on our streams there in Rumble. Shout out to the Rumble partnership we have, and everybody that, if you're watching, you're listening to me right now and you're watching, hit that follow button, show some love, hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching on YouTube, show some love. And all you got to do is, if you want to join us on that Discord, the link is right here. It's pinned in the top of the live comments. If you want to find more links right here, trade with us on LBank. You get some special access in the Discord and the live trading zones and the calls and stuff like that. Sign up right there if you want. If you need VPN right here, nordvpn.com/BitLab. Of course, the best crypto cold storage solution out there. Protect your crypto, protect your future. That link is right here. GetArculus.com. It's one tap, total security. Protect your crypto, protect your future. Then, of course, BitcoinIRA.com. Let's plan long-term. Let's also shelter ourselves from some of these tax obligations, AKA save 20, 30% on all these capital gains you're making. If you're rotating them into Bitcoin, why not trade those alts? Because there's 75 different cryptocurrencies that you can trade on this platform, and you do it within your IRA, and you can rotate those profits into Bitcoin and not lose that extra 20 to 30%, 40% in some cases on capital gains taxes. Head over to BitcoinIRA.com. That phone number is 1-877-936-7175. Again, 877-936-7175. BitcoinIRA.com. Shout out to our channel partners. But with that, everybody, I love you. I appreciate you. I hope we all have a wonderful day. We're going to be over 120 soon. We're going to be over 140,000 soon. We're going to be tapping that $200,000 Bitcoin. As you see, where's my arm? Right there, $200,000 before we know it. So let's make sure we're doing the smart moves here. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Alt season is going to be starting soon. Let's go. Everybody, we're going to be heading over to Sin City Crypto now, so let them know the BitLab Academy BitLab Academy family's in the house. Drop those lab coats in the live chat there. Tell them Kelly sent you. Big love to them for letting us use their studio while we were in Vegas. I love you all. I appreciate you. Adios.